and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
And today we are going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to do a little bit of a mid-season recap and, take a look at the season so far for the Panthers, where we see it going, surprises, disappointments, things like that. But our main topic today is going to be, is Sam Darnold the worst quarterback in Carolina Panthers franchise history? Or maybe why Sam Darnold is the worst quarterback in Carolina Panthers franchise history. And Jerry, tell us a little why this topic sort of came up and why we're talking about it today.
Well, I was at the game on Sunday, and after that third interception where he just throws the ball towards DJ Moore, he was a one-on-one coverage in the end zone, and it got picked. I literally just said, he is the worst quarterback Panthers had. And I tweeted it out. It was, kind of quick and just threw it out there because that was just a second horribly thrown ball. He had Ian Thomas in the red zone earlier and overthrew him for another pick. That was the pick six. And I was like, he is just awful. Those are his mistakes. There was not great plays or anything else by the defender. And he had a player, he chose the right player. Yes, DJ Moore, you could have gone somewhere else. But if DJ Moore, if you teardrop that to the back of the end zone where only DJ has a chance at it, that's a viable throw. He's just that bad. And I tweeted that out, and it got a lot of traction. And a lot of people brought up Brian St. Pierre, Randy Fasani. I'm not talking about those guys. Those guys started one time because of injuries and I think Brian St.
Pierre was like assigned a few days earlier or something. Like Vinny Testaverde, I saw. Give me a break, guys.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about guys that they started and kept starting. Like they wanted to start. Jimmy Clausen, yes, I get it. That's one guy we're going to talk about. And Chris Weinke's another one. But those guys started, not one game. Not
I
emergency.
Think we were thinking like, you start like six games or something, right? You are the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, right? And sort of, and Jerry kind of jump in here, but the way that I was thinking about this was a few things, right? Certainly statistics. We're going to look at statistics. We're going to look at kind of how the team performs with these guys on the field. Personally, I'm looking at cost. Like, what do the Panthers have in this quarterback, to get him? Like in the case of Jimmy Clausen, a second round pick versus Weinke, a fourth round pick. Expectations, just a lot of different things, not just, this guy was 1-9 as a QB. Well, that's bad. That's terrible, but that's not the only stat or piece of evidence that you need to consider.
I'm also looking at the teams around them because the teams around them helps them out a lot. I mean, do we think because I personally feel this defense is a playoff caliber defense, but it is not 2000 Baltimore Ravens playoff team where they can lead a team.
It's not 2015 Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, they're just not that good.
Not a high-end defense, yeah.
Correct. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First name I kept seeing up, Jimmy Clausen. I guess a lot of people call him Pickles. I did not know that. That was his nickname by a lot of
Clausen
people.
Pickles?
I did.
Clausen Pickles?
I
Jerry,
kept
where have
seeing
you been?
Pickles. I was like, whoa, what?
Jerry's like, what do they keep talking about Pickles for?
Well, I mean, I figured it out. I mean, realistically, in my head, there was only really two options for this, and I keep getting said, what about Pickles? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
You were thinking, is that some weird nickname for Chris Weinke?
No. All right. So with Jimmy Clausen, 2010, he had only 10 starts for us. He did go 1-9 as a starter. He only threw the ball 299 times. He did complete 52%, 1,500 yards, 1,558 to be exact, 3 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Yes, he was bad. I remember that season very vividly. And it was bad where you hiked the ball. Anytime he threw, you knew it was bad. That being said, I think he had David Geddes starting, and Steve Smith, I think, was injured a majority of that season with a hamstring injury that lingered all year long. So he had really nobody to throw to.
Yeah. Plus, Jimmy Clausen, a second round pick, like we
Mm-hmm.
said, a guy that sort of fell out of the first round, obviously for good reason because he didn't turn out to be very good. But some analysts had this guy as like a top 5 pick,
Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper. um, and so it was kind of a steal when the Panthers
Yeah.
got him in the second round. Panthers did not have a first round pick in that
Mm-hmm.
draft. Jimmy Clausen also wasn't supposed to be the starter right away. I mean, Matt Moore was supposed to be the starter. Matt Moore had done pretty well the previous season, Jake Delhomme's last season, and was kind of penciled in as the starter. And yeah, I think he ended up getting hurt or just was
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
ineffective.
was.
So Clausen had to take over. So Jimmy Clausen is definitely top 3 worst quarterbacks in
Oh, yes.
Panthers history. And you can make the argument that he is the worst. I mean,
Yeah.
just like you said, I mean, anytime 3 touchdown passes in 10 games, that's almost impossible
Yeah.
for a starting NFL quarterback.
And you also have to remember, too, this was John Fox last year, and John Fox did not want to draft Jimmy Clausen, and he was begrudgingly drafted. And if the reports and what he kind of spoke about afterwards is he didn't want Clausen on the team. He didn't want to start him, but everything else was for. So do you think the coaching was really trying to prop up Jimmy Clausen that year? I mean,
yeah, there's so many things. Like it was a lame duck year for excuse me,
Fox.
not Matt Rule, John Fox. And yeah, everyone could see that the team didn't believe in it. This team was not going to win. Didn't matter who was at the quarterback position at that point. But John Fox, I don't know. It was obviously his time, but yes, Jimmy Clausen, terrible quarterback. I mean, he made like a few more starts in his NFL career, spot starts here and there, never caught on anywhere. For a number 2, a second round pick, that highly regarded out of Notre Dame, who had a nice career at Notre Dame, by the way. I mean, again, this was a guy that almost everyone said was a first round pick. Several people had him very high. Obviously, he was highly regarded, just didn't pan out. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to make the argument that Jimmy Clausen is the worst quarterback in Panthers history, it'd be hard for me to disagree, right?
Yeah, it's really up to 2 players, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We are going to mention another player just because they were brought up multiple times. Chris Weinke.
Which, for good reason.
Yeah, he by all means is not on the top list of Panthers player. Another rookie, a 29-year-old rookie, 4th round pick, started 15 games. I remember they wanted to start somebody else, but they ended up cutting them.
Was it Rodney Peete, right?
No, it wasn't Rodney Peete. It was someone else. But that person got cut right before the start of the season because I guess he just wasn't panning out. I wish I would have looked this up. But either way, I'm going to continue on with Chris Weinke's stats. He was 54% completion percentage, threw for 2,931 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 19 interceptions. Now, he did start the most games, and he went 1-14. That's another team that just was awful all the way around. It was Seifert's last year, rightfully so. So
Steve Smith before he was really Steve Smith.
Yeah, Steve Smith, he was that guy of a return guy. Wasn't
return
really
guy, yeah.
So he didn't really have much going for him either. I mean,
yeah, Chris Weinke lost 17 games in a row as a starter because you've got the 2001 season here. He started a few more games for the Panthers over the next couple of years, and then I think he actually started a game in San Francisco as well a few years later. But 17 losses in a row as a starter, that's tough. That is tough. Again, 19 interceptions, the most interceptions thrown in a single season for a Panthers quarterback, which honestly doesn't seem like a lot
No.
considering some of the quarterbacks in the league. And obviously if Darnold continues to start, he would destroy that record. I don't know that's going to happen, but he also, let's see, he's got the record for pass completions in a game for a Panthers starter. He also has the record for regular season pass attempts as a starter with 61. And then he was sacked 8 times as a rookie. So again, like Chris Weinke was not a good quarterback.
No, he was not.
But he was a 4th round pick. Okay. Obviously not brought in to start as we kind of discussed. A guy that was drafted, I think he 27 or 29. I thought he was 27. Either way, he was an old rookie.
Yeah.
A really old rookie. And if we're adding in kind of the expectations versus cost versus all that stuff, then I don't think he beats out Jimmy Clausen as the worst Panthers quarterback. But he's up there.
He is up there. But again, I also look around the team, and that team was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the draft that had Dan Morgan, Chris Jenkins, and Steve Smith all in their rookie seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, a sign of things to come. 2 years later, the team's in the Super Bowl.
Exactly. But receiver
not.
receiver wise, he had Muhsin Muhammad. Yes, Steve Smith was on the team, but he didn't really play. Patrick Jeffers, and that was it. Isaac Bird.
Jeffers.
Yeah, names I remember, but
His
don't
career
remember
was
the
cut
player.
short too soon. Patrick Jeffers was like, he was good when he was healthy, but
he was bad. He was bad. Again, Seifert didn't help him. He was bad as a coach. So,
yeah, this was the season where they won the first game and then lost every single game after that. Chris Weinke was inactive one game in the middle of the season. But started every other game and lost them all. So, and also Chris Weinke, the quarterback that heralded the Wildcat game where the Panthers ran the ball 54 times and beat the Falcons. Chris Weinke threw the ball 8 times in that game. Yeah, so everybody, all us old school Panthers fans, we all remember that game. And
I thought Brian St. Pierre's game was a Wildcat game too, where D'Angelo
It may have
Williams
also been, but this one was the Deshaun Foster carried the ball like 28 times or something in this game, and the other running back might have been D'Angelo, was like 21 or 22 times.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Yeah,
it reminded me honestly a lot of the Atlanta game a couple of weeks ago for the Panthers, where we ran the ball 47 times and won. I mean, that, it seems like when the quarterback is completely untrustworthy, that's what you do. And every once in a while it can work.
That's exactly it. I mean, you don't trust your quarterback to not turn it over. Sam Darnold had 2 red zone interceptions again this week. And this game was very close, and one of those literally flipped it from us scoring a 7 to them literally scoring 7 on that play. I mean, that's a 14-point swing.
Yeah. All right, so let's look at Sam. I mean, Sam so far this season, okay, he's completing 59% of his passes.
Yeah.
He's got 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I think he's got 5 rushing touchdowns as well. 4-5 as a record, almost 2,000 yards passing. But a lot of those good stats came early. We're really looking at like the last 5 or 6 games here. Yeah. Where he's like completing 50% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I mean, and as you said, interceptions in some of the worst possible situations, red zones, pick sixes, and he's just getting worse as the season goes on.
And they're bad interceptions. It's not, I'm trying to make a play and stuff like that. He has the right reads a lot of the times. He's just throwing the ball bad. And then last week against New England, how many times did I see the ball get batted down? Is he not throwing the ball high enough? Like, obviously.
The Jamie Collins interception was like, first of all, an amazing feat of athleticism from Jamie Collins, but instead of batting the ball down, he just reached up and snagged it out of the air. Again, is he not throwing the ball? Is his release point not high enough? I don't know.
Yeah, and I thought the offensive line played on their curve decent. I have to put in that curve because
for a good offensive line game, a good offensive line, not a good game. But for us, he was only sacked one time.
Yeah, he had some pressure, but for the most part, a lot of times, even when they gave him time, he would hold on to the ball too long. He would wait too long for his read, throw it into coverage instead of hitting the guy wide open on the other side. So again, we're talking about the worst quarterback in the Panthers history. I mean, 50. I'm looking recently, the past recent games, 51%, 2 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's just horrible. He throws an interception 3.6% of the time of his throws,
which is higher than either of the other two guys we just talked about.
Yes, and I bet you it's probably higher in the last game since Philadelphia. It's probably a lot higher. Oh,
I'm sure. It's like since the Dallas game where he threw those 2 interceptions and then just continue on from there, 2, 3, 1, 1, 0, 3. That's a lot. It's a lot of interceptions.
So, I mean, I know people are going to harp on those first 3 games, but after that, it's just downhill.
And he beat the Jets 19-14. It was hardly a heroic game for him. His best game was probably against Dallas. In terms of the way he looked. But again, he got sacked 5 times in that game. So I don't know, man. Like it seemed like the early part of the season, I talked a little bit about it on the podcast, on the recap podcast. The first 3 games of the season were fool's gold for us. When you look at the opponents, when you look at what each of these teams had going on, what we have seen the last 5-6 games, that's the real Panthers. That's the real Sam Darnold. That's the real coaching staff. And again, what was the cost for Sam Darnold, right? For Jimmy Clausen, a 2nd-round pick. For Chris Weinke, a 4th-round pick. For Sam Darnold, a 2nd, a 4th, a 6th. Okay, we picked up his $18 million option for next season. That's got to be paid for. Okay, yeah. So between that and this year, it's like $24 million. We're still paying $7 million for Teddy Bridgewater, which they had to release when they picked up Sam. And you passed on Fields and Mac Jones. Yeah, the cost is astronomical.
Absolutely.
For the franchise, the cost is ridiculous, and the expectations coming in were that he would wash that jet stink off of him and be, at the very least, an average quarterback.
Yeah. And not only that, he has such a better team. The defenses that Jimmy Clausen and Chris Weinke had were awful. Couldn't stop a nosebleed. This defense spotted him the 6 points against New England. Gave them great field position. And what does he do? He squanders it. They get 2 field goals out of 2 turnovers in Patriots area. I'm just flabbergasted at how bad he is.
Not to mention, it's not only the Panthers that he's done this for. Look at his Jets. His Jet stats are just as bad. And anyone who watched those games, he was terrible. His 2nd year in the Jets, they went 7-6. He had 19 and 13 in terms of touchdowns, interceptions. That's easily his best season. But the next season, the one that I guess Matt Rule saw and just had to have him, was 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions in 12 games, a team that went 2-10 with him as a starter. You see that guy and you're like, I got to have that guy. He had the worst, he was like the 35th rated quarterback in the league or something.
Yeah.
There's only 32 teams.
I tried to wrap my head and be positive with the trade, but
we tried, man. We really did try. Up until just a few weeks ago, even. I was like trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But after the Giants game, I was out. And then they won Atlanta, but Sam didn't do anything in that game to win. 129 passing yards. 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He didn't turn the ball over. That was the only positive thing you can say about him in that game. And then this game just actively lost the game for the Panthers.
Correct. I mean, everybody else on this, and again, he has a lot better receivers than Weinke and Clausen.
Yeah.
Like I said, Weinke they were all young. Muhsin Muhammad was probably just coming on. You like Patrick Jeffers. I don't really remember Patrick Jeffers.
Again, he was hurt all the time.
And Jimmy Clausen had Steve Smith, but he had that hamstring injury, and that was it. There was no one else on that roster. So he has a lot better weapons, even though Robbie Anderson, which now I'm kind of realizing why Robbie Anderson keeps blowing up, because he just doesn't like him. I think he didn't like him in the Jets, and I don't think he likes him now, that he knows that he's not a good quarterback. But
yeah, even in the Jets, Robbie Anderson was productive. That whole thing I don't understand. I really don't understand what's happened to Robbie Anderson this season. And we'll probably get to him here in our season review in a few minutes, but that connection is just so off. I really don't get it. But honestly, with Sam, I guess I understand it, because he's just a bad quarterback. And I'm wondering if he's just not throwing a very catchable ball to some of these guys. The amount of drops from a team, by the way, that didn't drop the ball a lot last year at all.
No.
The amount of drops they've had is really, really rough. And some of the throws that Sam is making, where even though these guys are getting their hands on it, like the one to Terrace Marshall last week, where it was kind of that third down, and the coaching staff didn't trust Sam to do anything with that ball, so they threw it behind the line of scrimmage, try a little screen pass, wide receiver screen. Marshall got his hands on it, but it was thrown at the ground. It was a terrible throw.
I mean, it's a quick pass where you just know where you're throwing it. It's not rocket science.
Let me read off the passer ratings for Sam Darnold this season. Okay, starting with week 1, 102. Nice start, 99.1, 95.7. You know what? Those are pretty good.
Yeah, great.
I think 95 is somewhere around average, right? 85.5, 44.5, 55.6, 57.4, 69.6, 26.3. And there were several of those games where he was a 0 well into the second quarter, if not into the third quarter.
So yes, he's getting garbage time yards and garbage time, he's not even getting touchdowns.
Not even that many. Yeah, I mean, his yardage totals for the last 5 games, 177, 207. And that 207, by the way, was mostly all garbage time against Minnesota. 112 against the Giants, a team not known to be a lockdown defense. 129 in a win against Atlanta, and then 172 against New England. A team that they were down double-digit points a lot of the game, where they should have been throwing the ball. They just didn't trust. They don't trust Sam Darnold. He still threw the ball 33 times in that game. Couldn't do anything. So I think, Jerry, the consensus that we've come to here is, given the cost associated, given who they gave up, or who they passed on, really, the team surrounding Sam Darnold, the defense that Sam Darnold has behind him, and just the performances that we've seen on the field, we can pretty definitively say that Sam Darnold is the worst quarterback in Carolina Panthers history.
I right now, yes, Sam Darnold is the worst quarterback. Because again, Jimmy Clausen didn't throw a lot. He only threw 299 yards. Had a lame duck coach who didn't want him there.
Bad quarterback. Okay, we're not saying we're not giving him any excuses.
No. There's a reason he didn't start for other teams. I mean,
he's certainly number 2, I think.
Yeah, I would give him number 2, if not. Yeah. I mean, it really could be 1A, 1B, depending on the way you view it.
Yeah.
But
and then Chris Weinke's up there too. But a 4th round pick, I think I'm not going to put
4th round pick, rookie. So much. Yeah. Here's my question. Chris Weinke, George Seifert got fired. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Clausen, lame duck, wasn't renewed for John Fox. Does Matt Rule survive this?
Yeah, he does. I mean, it's only year 2. of the Matt Rule experience, where he was signed for what, 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to he'll get at least one more year. And by the way, if you look at Matt Rule everywhere he's been, it's always the third year that the team is in the bowl game, right? You know, I don't expect the Panthers to be in the Super Bowl next year.
Oh no.
But that's sort of what I think is expected from him, is you struggle for 2 years and you show improvement in that second year, which we haven't seen. And then that third year is the year that it all comes together. So I think they will give him the one more year. We'll see if if the streak continues in terms of the third year. But I do not expect Sam Darnold to be on this team next year. I don't know what they're going to do with him.
I mean,
no one's going to trade for that contract. They'll have that. Yeah. I mean, they could cut him. That's the only thing they could do. Or they keep him around as a backup.
I mean, I guess that's what you have to do. But I mean, who are you going to bring in at that point? I mean, you have to draft somebody at this. I mean,
maybe. I mean, there's some veteran quarterbacks that are interesting that are going to be potentially switching teams next year. You know, there's Aaron Rodgers. There's Russell Wilson has talked about maybe wanting to look at something different. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out there. You know, again, Garoppolo's not a great option, but Russell Wilson would be nice.
Aaron Rodgers Garoppolo over.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers is going to be looking for a Super Bowl team, so probably not going to happen. He's looking for that Tom Brady situation. But you know, Trubisky is probably going to be available. You could have Gardner Minshew available. Jalen Hurts might be available. Like, there's going to be options, is what I'm saying. There's going to be options.
All right. Well, let's move on.
And the draft. You know, the worse the Panthers are, the higher the draft pick they're going to have.
Yeah, I mean,
in a not a great quarterback draft.
So. Yeah, it's unfortunately very. I do not like either of the quarterbacks right now that are 1 and 2.
Yeah. Well, hey, let us know in the comments what you guys think. If we're totally off base here, or you know why you agree with us or disagree with us, whatever the case may be, or hit us up on Twitter. You know, mailbag at MeowMixPodcast.com. Let us know what you think.
We want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag at MeowMixPodcast.com. And if you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the show.
We'll be back on Friday to preview Carolina heading west and visiting the Arizona Cardinals. Until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.